I am Reed. I am 27, just an average dude. Ivy made tons of money mistakes in my 20s, and now I want to share everything I've learned to help you take control of your finances and your life. Oh shit, where do I even begin with the financial train wreck? That was my early 20s. Seriously, it was a mess. I was the king of living paycheck to paycheck, if I even made it that far. Treat yourself was basically my life motto. And let me tell you, my bank account was not feeling treated. I was racking up small debts here and there, nothing major enough to really scare me, but enough to always feel like I was playing catch up. Buy that new gadget, that cool pair of sneakers, eat out way too often. Every single time I swore I'd be better next month, and every single month I found myself in the exact same spot, if not worse. It was a cycle of instant gratification followed by immediate regret, and I felt totally lost about my future. No real savings, no investments, just a whole lot of I'll figure it out later. Later always seemed to come, and I still hadn't figured anything out. My family, they read just regular folks, no secret trust funds or fancy connections to kickstart my career. So every dollar I spent, every debt I accrued was all on me. And for a long time, that just didn't hit me hard enough. I remember one particularly rough month, my car needed an unexpected repair, and I legitimately had to choose between fixing it and paying my rent on time. It was a huge wake-up call. I felt this intense shame and embarrassment. Here I was, a grown man, and I couldn't even handle basic adult responsibilities without a crisis. That is when I realized, okay, Reed, this is sustainable. This is how you build a life. It was a pivotal moment. I was tired of the constant stress, the feeling of always being behind. I knew I needed to change, but honestly, I had no idea where to even start. I was some finance whiz. I didn't even know what a stock was, let alone how to invest in one. All I knew was that I wanted more for myself than a life of financial anxiety. I started reading everything I could get my hands on about personal finance, books, blogs, YouTube videos from people who seemed to have their act together. I soaked it all up, and what I found was that a lot of it was nearly as complicated as I thought. It was mostly about discipline and making small, consistent changes. My first big step was getting real about my spending. I tracked every single penny for a month, and oh man, that was an eye-opener. I saw exactly where my money was bleeding out, and it wasn't pretty. Those daily coffees, those impulse buys at the grocery store all added up to a significant chunk of change. So I started with a strict budget, like really strict. I cut out almost all unnecessary spending. It was tough at first. Felt like I was depriving myself of everything fun. But I kept reminding myself of that car repair moment and how much I hated that feeling. I also started tackling my small debts. I used the snowball method, paying off the smallest debt first to build momentum. Seeing those balances go down even just a little was incredibly motivating. It gave me a sense of control I hadn't felt in years. Then came the emergency fund. This was a game changer. Having that cushion of cash for unexpected expenses meant I didn't have to resort to credit cards or stress out every time something popped up. It was pure peace of mind. Now, I am not here to tell you I am rich, or that I am a financial guru. Far from it, I am just a guy who learned some hard lessons and wants to share what worked for me. I've paid off all my debts, I've got my emergency fund solid, and I am consistently saving and making low-risk investments. My career is on track, and my life feels a lot more stable. I am not saying it is always easy. There are still temptations, sure, but now I have a plan, and I understand the value of every dollar. What I've realized is that your 20s are such a crucial time. This is when you lay the groundwork for your entire adult life. And if you are like me, making a bunch of financial mistakes, it can feel overwhelming to turn it around. But trust me, you can. It is about taking that first step, being honest with yourself, and being consistent. Don't fall for the get-rich-quick schemes. Those are usually just traps. Focus on slow, steady progress, build good habits, educate yourself. It is a marathon, not a sprint. And honestly, it is way more rewarding to build something solid and sustainable than to chase fleeting fads. One thing I really struggled with was comparing myself to others. You see people on social media living these seemingly perfect lives, always on vacation, always buying new stuff, and it is easy to think you are falling behind. But here's the truth. Most of that is an illusion. Everyone's got their own struggles, and what you see online is rarely the full picture. Focus on your own journey, your own goals. My journey wasn't about becoming a millionaire overnight. It was about gaining financial independence, having choices, and not having money be a constant source of stress. And that is totally achievable for anyone, no matter where you are starting from. So if you are in your 20s feeling lost with your money, or just want to get a better handle on things, know that you are not alone. I've been there. It is tough, but it is also empowering once you start making those changes. My goal is just to be that friend who tells you, hey, I messed up, but here's how I fixed it. No judgment, just practical advice and real life examples. Because if a regular dude like me can do it, you absolutely can too. Peace. Let's dive deeper into some of the specific mistakes I made and exactly how I fixed them, hoping you can avoid some of my same pitfalls. One of my biggest financial blunders was definitely the whole keeping up with the Joneses mentality, or more accurately, keeping up with the Instagram feeds. I saw my friends going on trips, buying new gadgets, eating at fancy restaurants, and I felt this immense pressure to do the same. I didn't want to be left out, So I de-swiped my credit card, convincing myself I'd pay it off next month, but next month would roll around, and there'd be another social event, another must-have item. It was a never-ending cycle. I was spending money I didn't have to impress people who probably didn't even care. The fix for this was brutal honesty with myself. I had to unfollow some accounts, mute some friends' stories, and really reflect on why I felt this need to constantly consume. I realized a lot of it came from insecurity. Once I understood that, I could start to break free from that comparison trap. I started saying no to things that didn't align with my budget, even if it felt awkward at first. My real friends understood, and the ones who didn't, well, they weren't really my friends anyway. Prioritizing my financial health became more important than temporary social validation. It was a mindset shift that took time, but it was absolutely essential. Another huge mistake was not understanding interest. Oh man, the interest rates on my credit cards were killer. I was making minimum payments, thinking I was doing enough. But then I'd look at my statements and realize that a huge chunk of my payment was just going to interest, not even touching the principal. It felt like I was running in place. It was incredibly demotivating. I remember a particularly nasty conversation with a customer service rep about my balance, and I just felt so small and stupid. That was another moment where I said, enough is enough. I started researching how credit card interest works, how compound interest works against you, and how it can bury you if you are not careful. The solution was, as I mentioned, the debt snowball, but with an added focus on attacking the highest interest rate debts first, which is often called the debt avalanche method. I combined them. I paid off my smallest debt to get that psychological win. Then I switched to focusing all extra money on the debt with the highest interest rate. This saved me a significant amount of money in interest over time. It was about deprivation, it was about redirection. Every extra dollar I earned, whether from a side hustle or cutting down on expenses, went straight to those debts. It was satisfying to watch the balances shrink, and even more satisfying to know I was saving money by not paying endless interest. Then there was the complete lack of a financial plan. I had no budget, no savings goals, no idea where my money was going or what I was saving for. It was just a free-for-all. Every time I got paid, it felt like Monopoly money. It would just disappear, and I'd wonder where it all went. This led to a lot of stress and anxiety, especially when unexpected expenses popped up, which they always do. My car trouble was a prime example. If I had had even a small emergency fund, that situation would have been annoying but not a full-blown crisis. To fix this, I had to create a budget, and I know budgets sound boring, restrictive, and no fun. But honestly, a budget is just a plan for your money. It is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. I started with a simple spreadsheet listing all my income and all my fixed expenses. Then I allocated money for variable expenses like groceries, gas, and yes, even some fun money. The key was to be realistic. If I budgeted too tightly, I'd just give up. So I built in a small amount for wants so I didn't feel completely deprived. The 50 divided by 30 divided by 20 rule is a good starting point. 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings and debt repayment. Adjust it to fit your own situation. But the main thing is to have a framework. This budget became my roadmap. It gave me clarity and control, which I desperately needed. I also set specific financial goals. Build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Pay off my credit cards, save for a down payment on a place. Having these concrete goals made it much easier to stick to my budget because I knew exactly what I was working towards. Another massive misstep was thinking I didn't need to learn about investing because it was too complicated or only for rich people. I literally knew nothing about the stock market, mutual funds, or even basic retirement accounts. I was just letting my money sit in a regular savings account, earning basically zero interest while inflation was eating away at its value. It was a classic case of procrastination fueled by intimidation. I figured I'd get around to it eventually, but eventually never came. This changed when I started learning more about compounding and how time is your biggest asset when it comes to investing. The sooner you start, the more your money can grow. It was a real aha moment. I started with the basics. I opened a Roth IRA, which is a retirement account where your investments grow tax-free. And you don't pay taxes when you withdraw in retirement. It is awesome for young people. I started investing in low-cost index funds and ETFs. These are basically baskets of stocks that track a market index like the SP 500. They re-diversified, meaning you are not putting all your eggs in one basket. And they remanaged passively, so the fees are super low. You don't need to be a stock-picking genius, just consistently invest in these broad market funds and let time and compound interest do their magic. I am not saying it is exciting, but it is effective. It is about consistency, not trying to beat the market. I also made the mistake of not having any kind of side hustle or additional income stream. I relied solely on my main job, which meant my income was capped, and any unexpected expense or desire to save more felt like a struggle. I didn't think I had any valuable skills outside of my 9 to 5. This was a limiting belief that held me back. I eventually realized that everyone has skills that can be monetized. For me, it started small. I did some freelance writing on the side, leveraging my communication skills. It wasn't a ton of money at first, but it was extra income that went straight to my debt or savings. It also gave me a sense of entrepreneurial spirit and showed me that I wasn't just stuck with one income source. This wasn't about getting rich quick, but about creating more financial flexibility and accelerating my goals. It could be anything: walking dogs, babysitting, teaching a skill online, selling things you no longer need. The point is to find ways to bring in extra cash that you can then strategically deploy towards your financial goals. Every little bit helps, and it adds up faster than you think. Another subtle but significant mistake was my overall mindset around money. I viewed money as something to be spent, something that just disappeared. I had a scarcity mindset, always feeling like there was enough. This led to impulsive decisions and a feeling of powerlessness. When I started my financial journey, I had to actively work on shifting this mindset. I started viewing money as a tool, a resource that could be managed and grown. I focused on abundance, recognizing that there are always opportunities to earn, save, and invest. It is about perspective. Instead of saying, "I can afford that," I started asking, "How can I afford that?" Or, "Is this worth delaying my financial goals?" This simple shift in language and thought processes had a profound impact. I started to feel more empowered and less like a victim of my circumstances. It is a journey, not a destination. You'll have good days and bad days with your finances, just like with anything else. The key is to keep learning, keep adapting, and keep moving forward. So, for all my fellow 20-somethings out there, let me be your cautionary tale and your guide.